It is. This is the Thursday edition of Buc What You Heard. My name is Gene. You can reach me at Super Heavyweight. You follow me, I'll follow you back. I'm joined by Michael Pless of Real Bucs Talk. How you doing today, Michael?
Pretty good, Gene. It's just another day in paradise here in Tampa, and just excited for Buccaneers football. We're only a couple months away.
Yeah, and tell everybody how they can get a hold of you.
Yeah, you can follow us at Real Bucs Talk. We're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Be sure to check out our site, realbucstalk.com. We have a lot of new content out there, pretty much daily videos on Twitter, pretty much every day. So it's just something different that we're trying to show to fans and bring fans together, and really excited about this year. I mean, the team is really looking good, and it's going to be a fun year for sure.
Yeah, give everybody a taste of what you're working with. I know you were talking about a few players that fans might want to be looking for, and who do you have? Who are you seeing as somebody that the Bucs may want to be looking at?
Yeah, I mean, right now I'm going over this year's draft class. So been going over, I have stories up on OJ Howard, Justin Evans, Chris Godwin. Just put up a story yesterday on Kendall Beckwith. But I mean, Chris Godwin is the talk of the town right now. I mean, the way he's showing up at OTAs is really impressive. Just his ability to make plays, and he's consistent every day. So he's always showing up. He made another big play today. I think it was like a 40-yard where he tiptoed and kept both feet in bounds. So he's really impressive right now. And then I think tomorrow I'm going to probably have some stories on McNichols, the running back out of Boise State, and then I'll have something on Stevie T as well from USC. So it's really exciting.
Yeah, it really is, man. And and we talked back and forth during the draft, during different phases of the draft. And the one thing that I wasn't like overhyped about any position, but the more I look at what Tampa has done in the draft, I think they've hit on some positions that are going to help them, down the stretch, to a winning season. So that's something I'm pretty excited about, just as we're looking at this team. And what we're going to do tonight, folks, and please, if you can, give me your thoughts. I'm checking I'm Jonathan Miles. What's up, fellas? Jonathan Miles is on. I'll be responding to your messages in live chat here on YouTube. So hit me up with something, and I'll definitely get it out there. Tonight we're going to start with the defense. I know the offense has been the talk of the town. To me, I felt like the defense did not get enough credit for what they were able to accomplish last year. If you, as a Bucs fan, have been here since the Super Bowl, I'm just going to use that as a starting point. If you look at the Tampa Bay defense and what they've done, there have been times where they've given up games. A lot of times where they've given up games and not done what was required of them as a defense. And what I saw last year was an improvement on defense, and I credit a lot of that to the defensive coordinator, Mike Smith. And I expect big things from the defense this year, being that you have the same core players and you have the same defensive coordinator. So that's something to be excited about. James, what's going on? So, I just kind of want to get your thoughts. That's where we're going to start. We're going to start with the defensive line, and we're going to talk about the importance of the defensive line in getting this team into the playoffs. I mean, to me, that right there, that's the kind of the engine that runs the defense is the defensive line, because you need to get pressure on the quarterback in order to, in order to generate that pressure, in order to help out your secondary and your linebackers.
Yeah, I mean, most definitely. And the defense has had a couple of good days here, especially over the last couple of weeks at OTAs. I mean, they had more interceptions today again. Ryan Smith, Quan Alexander getting an interception. So guys are making plays out there on the ball. And a defensive lineman that's kind of stood out, that's not being talked about, who stood out last year a little bit, is Ryan Russell from Purdue. That guy is making plays. I know it's OTA, so there's no pads or anything, but he's showing out as far as just speed and overall athleticism, getting to the quarterback. So he's a guy to watch for. He's going to be kind of a bubble player this year. So, but if he can make it, that's more depth. I think him and George Johnson are going to be battling for that last defensive end spot, depending on who they keep. So very interesting. But yeah, I mean, you make great point on the defense line.
I apologize. Go ahead.
No, you're good. I mean, the defense line as a whole has gotten better just because of more depth. We were bigger up front with Chris Baker. They added Stevie T, like I said earlier. So definitely an emphasis on getting bigger and more physical up front to help stop the run. But then you look at the speed on the outside with Robert Ayers and Noah Spence, and hopefully a healthy Jacquez Smith who can stay healthy the entire season, and we can finally see what he can do. As a full 16 game player, but as a rotational player, I think that's going to benefit him. So interesting. And then you bring back Golston, who's another good player, 6'6" size, can play inside or out. So defensive line is probably as deep as it's been in a long time, which is very important to win games in the NFL. And you got to start up front if you want to win. So I like it.
I have a question from Phoenix Wilson asking, who do you think will be the starting defensive ends? So and Phoenix, keep in mind, this is going to be a rotation. All these guys are going to get playing time. This isn't going to be they're going to be on for 3 quarters and maybe 1 quarter you'll have somebody else in there. They're going to be rotating in and out just because this will be a very long season. Because our bye week is so far on the back end, you will definitely see everybody will be utilized.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, to answer his question, I think you're going to see a lot of multiple line formations as far as personnel, multiple line personnel formations, where you're going to have a speed line, you're going to have a big line, you're going to have your base formation line. So if you want to, I mean, it's going to be Gerald McCoy, Chris Baker in the middle. Then you're going to have your ends and Robert Ayers and William Golston. Now, I know that's going to surprise some people. They're like, well, there's Noah Spence. Well, he's going to be in there, but he's going to be a rotational player where they utilize him in his strengths, which is rushing the quarterback. But he's going to get mixed time, and you're going to have Robert Ayers and Golston switch inside as well. So you're going to see a lot of multiple personnel where you have Gerald McCoy playing defensive end. You're going to have Chris Baker inside playing that nose tackle position. You're going to have Golston on the outside. So there's going to be a lot of formations where they mix it up to play multiple fronts, whether it's 3-4, 4-3, 5 linemen at possible times. So that's the key right there, is versatility, and that's what they're going to try to bring out more this season.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't know if fans, if you have to appreciate what Jason Light has done, what he's looking for, and somebody mentioned it, versatility. Versatility is huge. Being able to play in multiple positions, that's going to be key as well. And, just again, you're going to see multiple looks as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers progress through the season. And this will definitely keep your offensive coordinators on their heels. And the one thing I can say about this line is depth. We have not been able to use the word depth for, I would say, a decade or more. And the reason I say that is we've had so much player turnover, so many draft picks that have not panned out. And, for us to have a general manager who's able to assess talent, I mean, that's important. That's huge. To have a Jason Light who can say, okay, we can bring this guy into the fold and he can produce for us. And, he's done a great job with that. And fans have to be comfortable with that. Kevin Sloan, what's going on? How you doing? I did want to jump on this one question from Jonathan Miles. He said, if we come out week 1 and play like we did that 5-game winning streak, we will win the division and put the Falcons in their place and make it out of reach. Yeah, most definitely. I think, and I go back to what I said at the beginning of the podcast. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are in an excellent position because they're comfortable. They've been in the same system for consistent. It's been consistent. You see what Mike Smith is requiring of these players, of the core. You can bring players in, plug them in, and they're able to produce. And that's what's important is, not regressing, but building on what you had last year.
Yeah, most definitely. And like I said, I mean, the defense has been making plays in OTAs. I mean, they're just showing swagger out there. I mean, a lot of comfortability. Guys are just knowing where to be and knowing what to do. And it's refreshing because we haven't had that in so long, where we have stability at the defense coordinator position. Then you have stability among your position coaches, whether it's defensive line, linebackers, secondary. And guys are just getting more comfortable each day, knowing where they're supposed to be, knowing where other guys are supposed to be. And what that creates is you're able to build trust on the field. And once you have that trust on the field, be really dominant and you're allowed to play faster. And these guys are already pretty fast. I mean, and now it gets pretty exciting because you can do so much within the defense.
Yeah, Kevin Sloden made the point. He sees his mistakes and tries to find the good value in key positions. You're absolutely right. You hit the nail on the head on that one. Basically, when you have a general manager who can say, you know what, I messed up on this, let's move on. Let's get rid of this player and let's move on and get somebody, because you pretty much know, don't you? I mean, if you have a guy in there and like the Ghost Johnson, who from Cincinnati we picked up, and we knew right away, this guy, even though he had injuries, this wasn't our guy. This wasn't the guy for this team. And they got rid of him and they moved on. And that's what you can appreciate about this team is they have a direction now. And I've looked at, I remember Bruce Allen, remember Mark Dominic. There was no direction. We didn't, as a fan, you didn't know what the heck was going on. And, even in the beginning, the rocky stages with Lovie Smith as the head coach and Jason Light as the GM, you really weren't sure, but he shored the ship right now. And I think he's shown that he is the GM for the Tampa Bay Bucs.
Yeah. I mean, again, you're right on. I mean, adding the head coach was just the piece that was needed. And now you put him and Jason Light together and you just created this ultimate match where you have the perfect GM who knows what to look for as far as football players. And then you have a coach who knows how to tell it like it is and be straight up with everyone in the organization and say, hey, this is what I need to be successful. Good job of go getting those pieces. Absolutely. And when you have that bond and that chemistry, and it just works to beautifully, because if you have that partnership and become an ultimate powerhouse in this league, and you look at Bill Belichick and his general manager and their ownership, the way they just coordinate everything and everything's in place.
They all work together, and you don't hear one name over. Bill Belichick is the head coach, but they're all in line with what they're talking about. I want to get to this question or this comment that TV Bucs fan made. He said, even though Light can jump the gun and do things like draft kickers, his scouting team and personnel ability are setting up this team for long-term success. I will say that Roberto Aguayo's problems are up here. It's not he has the physical tools to be an elite kicker, okay? But he just doesn't have it up here. And that's the one thing that's holding him back is himself. He was able to do it in college, but here in the NFL, he's shown that he's struggling with that. So I don't fault Jason Light for that. We need a consistent kicker. We hadn't had one for a while. It's been an issue since, I would say, I guess Connor Barth was good, but then he got injured.
It's been since Matt Bryant. Once Matt Bryant left.
Yeah, Matt Bryant. Once Matt Bryant left, it was up in the air. There was no more consistency after. And you're right, it was Matt Bryant. Again, it's just one of those things. It's in his head. I think he's had the leg to get the ball. Yeah, he's made kicks outside of the game, but during the game he just can't do it. It's just not there. So he just doesn't have it from the neck up, and I think that's what's hurting him.
Yeah, and Jason Light is a risk taker, and you got to respect that, because I mean he goes up and gets guys who he wants. I mean, he traded up to get Ali Marpet, which was a great move. You know, and yeah, he traded up for a kicker. Maybe not the best move, but he felt really confident in the guy's ability, and he was the best kicker in college football. I mean, the stats are there. But, you know, sometimes it doesn't work out. And then this past draft, he traded up to get Beckwith, who is on him.
And again, that remains to be seen. And you know, I'm sorry, folks, to get off task. We're just talking about all these different things. I want to make sure that I get everybody's comments read, you know, as much as possible. Just kind of getting back to the defensive line. I know that you were talking about George Johnson. This is a name. If you go back, like if you start right now and go all the way back to January, his name is rarely mentioned by fans, social media, or anybody as a contributor for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Do you see him as that guy that can come in and be a difference maker, somebody that you didn't see last year that could have potentially made a difference?
Yeah, I think, you know, the problem is with George Johnson. I think a lot of fans, when we brought him in to be a starter, and the guy's just not cut out to be a starter. Now, as far as a rotational player, as far as a depth piece, he's very good, and it shows in his career, especially when he was with the Lions as a sub-package player. The guy produced. I mean, he averaged over 5 sacks per season. So to be a sub player like that, I think he can make a difference. Now, not saying he's going to make the team, because the depth at defensive end is so strong. I mean, you know, your top four is Golston, Spence, Ayers, and then you have Jacque Smith. So it just depends on numbers if they're going to keep 5 defensive ends. I mean, you look at Ryan Russell, he's coming on strong. He's another guy I like. But George Johnson gives you that versatility too. He can play inside or outside. So, I mean, there's a bonus there. But yeah, I definitely think he can make an impact.
Well, let me ask you this. You know, as we look across that from the defensive line perspective, do you see anybody that's competing for a job right now? Somebody that you're thinking, man, they have to have a good camp in order to stay on this team. Give me a couple of names. Give the fans some names out there that we can watch for.
Well, I mean, there's a few. I mean, you got Devontae Lambert from last year. I think he's going to be battling for a spot, just because defensive tackle is so deep now in the defensive ends. So a lot of these guys are going to be battling for last spot on the defensive line, depending on how many they're going to keep. Then probably battling for practice squad spots as well. So I say Lambert. You got Evan Panfield, who they picked up from Purdue, is another guy. George Johnson, Ryan Russell. I'm trying to think of other guys. Other guys are slipping my mind, but I'd probably put in the big guy, defensive tackle from last year's Siliga.
So let's talk about Evan Panfield, who, as you know, is one of my personal favorites, because I want to see him go up against Kevin Panfield and see how that all works out. So no, seriously, does he bring a lot? Is he somebody that Tampa fans should be looking at as a potential player that can help this team get better?
I'll be honest. I mean, it's not someone I've looked at intensely. This will probably be a question from my uh, partner, Mark
Your
Ramirez. He
cohort,
would probably,
your
yeah,
cohort's not on.
yeah, he would he would know this. But I mean, as far as what I've heard, he's got good size, 6'4", 280. He fits the mold as far as us wanting to get bigger and play more of a 3-4 style. So I think his versatility is there. As far as a player, I haven't really watched him, but it's something I will look into for sure and see what I can come with, and maybe put an article out.
I think that would be awesome if you did have an article about Kevin Pamphile. I think that would be excellent. I guess as we're going across the line, another name that really sticks out to me is Noah Spence. And Noah Spence was a player. I thought he had a great rookie season. And from outsiders looking in, they didn't really think he had a good season. But personally, I thought he did what I thought he would do. And playing with injury and being able to succeed with injury, it just made me excited for this season. So all along that line, I think Noah Spence is that one player that I'm really expecting to have a breakout season this year, based on the injury that he had and the fact that he's got a year under his belt under Mike Smith's defensive system. I think that he could be a monster.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think my guy, I'll go the opposite end, is Jacque Smith. I think
it is a contract year, so there's that.
I mean, it's a big year for him. I mean, if he can just find a way to stay on the field, and I think as a rotational guy where he's just asked to get after the quarterback, which is his strength. I mean, you look at last year, I mean, this guy was killing it in the preseason. I mean, he had 4 sacks in preseason. He was dominating. He looked really good.
And he always has a nose for the ball. Where there's a fumble, he's like maybe 2 feet away from it at the most.
Exactly. And he was doing really well in that Atlanta game. I know it was only one series, but he had a great rush on that third down play. And then the next play, unfortunately, he's out for the year. So he's my guy to look for, and I hope he can stay healthy and really show what he can do. I think he can be easily a double-digit sack guy. Him and Noah Spence, I think, if they're working together, they can create havoc. And I completely agree with Noah Spence. I think he's going to have a big year. I wrote an article about him a couple of weeks back, so be sure to check that out, Bucs fans. I think he's going to have probably one of the biggest second years history as far as breakout. I think he's poised to really turn some heads this year and show people that he should have been picked a lot higher.
Yeah, most definitely.
Last year's draft.
Have you seen the latest redraft? You know, every year they do a redraft of players that got missed, and if they had a chance to redraft, they'd do it again. And Noah Spence was at number 13. Corey Fleming, how you doing? Eric Moreno, what's going on? And I was looking at the list, and I have to say that I think Tampa did pretty good. Unfortunately, they have Vernon Hargreaves was like at number 15, I believe, or something like that. But
still good.
Again, these are outsiders looking in. And a lot of people will say that he had a off year. I feel like, as a cornerback, compared to what Tampa has been working with, I thought that I guess when you have a secondary that's down here, and then you have some guys that come in and play here with Brent Grimes and Vernon Hargreaves, I thought they had a good season. And I'm expecting big things from him. And as far as I'm concerned, that's not my concern. Is the cornerbacks, and we have to talk about Robinson. You have to bring his name up as well.
You talking about Josh Robinson?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I am spacing here. No, when you're talking, I'm sorry, Brent Grimes and Vernon Hargreaves. They both had great seasons. They had excellent seasons, to be very honest. I know that with Vernon Hargreaves, going up against players like Amari Cooper, he didn't do as well, but he didn't shy away from the challenge. And I expect, bigger things from him. I expect more aggression from him, being that he's in this system. He knows the system. He knows what's expected of him. He can go out and improve on what he didn't do good. So, it's really exciting to see that.
Yeah, I mean, Hargraves is dominating so far in OTAs. I mean, he's making a lot of plays, showing that
Jumping
confidence.
routes and that's the thing that we haven't seen for a long time. If you look at the cornerbacks that we've had, oh my God. I mean, just the last 2 years is just enough to make you want to like take up drinking if you don't already. And just what they've been able to do is to stabilize that cornerback position. That's huge.
Yeah.
That is huge. Because if you remember with Lovie Smith his last year, that was the cornerback rotation. You didn't know who was going to show up on Sundays. You didn't know who was going to start. So I think that, working against Mike Evans, working against a Deshaun Jackson and Chris Godwin, it makes you better. Iron sharpens iron. And what I'm seeing is that if these guys have to keep facing these elite wide receivers, they're just going to get better. And they're going to be able to face any of the cornerbacks that we have in the division.
Yeah, for sure. And that's a position that I think is going to be very interesting, especially in training camp. You look at just the cornerback position as a whole. Yeah, you have your 2 starters, but then everything after that is up for grabs, which is going to be very exciting. The battle at nickel position is very intriguing. That's something I'm excited about. With Robert McClain, you have Jude Albarima coming back, and then you have the surprise from last year is probably Javian Elliott. So
do you think that Javian Elliott can factor in with Jude Barima and who is the this is the new
Robert McClain.
Robert McClain, the former Falcon.
Yeah.
It's good. Competition is important. And again, we're seeing, as Bucs fans, you have to appreciate this because we're seeing things we haven't seen for years, where there is enough depth that you have competition in positions that, an incumbent can get kicked out. If you're not doing what you need to do, that's huge. And I guess with Jason Light, there are a lot of players that are carryovers from a previous regime. So he's not really married to anybody, and he can get the best player out of all of these. And, he's not invested in anybody. He can say, hey, this guy is better than this guy. You can get the best player out on the field.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if one of those 3 that I mentioned are let go. I mean, they're not. None of those guys are locks to make the team. And I will say this: Ryan Smith from last year, last year's 4th-round pick, that guy's coming. I'll tell you right now. I was a fan of him last year. I think
I love the draft pick. I thought the draft pick was huge.
Yeah. Yep. And if fans remember, if any fans that follow Real Bucs Talk, if you remember last year, I was adamant about Ryan Smith. I talked him up very highly, and to get him in the 4th round, I thought was probably the steal of the draft from last year. I don't think they made the right move by moving him to safety. I think he's a natural corner, and to have him back at corner, I think is going to really help this team, where now you can put him on the outside and move.
Because they brought him in to be a safety, correct?
Correct. Yeah, which I thought was a mistake. And they switched him to corner mid-season, and the guy was dominating in practice. I mean, he was going up against Mike Evans every day, and he was making plays against Mike Evans. So the potential is there, and he's got the speed. He's got the length. So I think that guy is the guy to watch for as far as the cornerback position.
All right. So, again, we're talking about the defensive line. We're going to jump back to the linebackers now. Again, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I'm going to be honest, I'm going to be upfront with everybody. I was against Hard Knocks. I thought Hard Knocks was a distraction. I didn't think that it would benefit the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but seeing what the coaching staff has done, seeing what the general manager has done, the defensive coordinator has done, I feel like this is ideal. You have a lot of veterans in there. You have a Jameis Winston who is a leader in that locker room. So I don't see where Hard Knocks would really be a distraction for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It'll give a lot of people a chance to see what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are all about. And that's what's important, because I feel like over the past 3 years, the linebacker core has not gotten any love. I mean, when you talk about Levante David and Quan Alexander especially, I mean, I've seen articles where they said Quan Alexander was a bust. And it just, and I'm sitting here like, are you smoking? Are you serious? Are you kidding me? And, when you read these articles, I know these are shock articles and clickbait, but come on, this guy is the real deal. And I think that this season, you're really going to get a chance to see what he's capable of doing. But I think that it's going to be really good for this fan base to get that exposure, especially with Hard Knocks. I think it's going to be great for him. And I think it's going to be great for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers organization as well.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, the excitement for this team is growing each day, and it's a great time to be a Bucs fan right now. And you're exactly right on the linebackers as far as Quan Alexander and Levante. I don't think they get talked about enough. I don't think, and I probably don't write about them enough. And I think I need to start doing that. I need to write about them more, especially Quan Alexander, because I think the guy, he's a special kid, and he's just going to keep getting better. And I can't wait to see what he does this year. If anyone follows his Twitter, I mean, the guy is just so motivated. He loves football.
He really is. And he's seeing what we're seeing, that he's not getting the credit that he deserves. And he's going to go out and show people. And that's what I'm expecting from him, is that dog, having that dog in you, where you're going to go out and you're going to show people what you're capable of doing. Levante David, underrated since he was drafted. And, I'm going to continue to say this until he gets the credit he deserves. Having multiple defensive coordinators, having to adjust to them and still playing at a high level shows you that this guy has it from the neck up, not just the physical tools, but from the neck up. And he's going to show people continually that, just what he's capable of doing. I really like what Tampa's doing, with their front line and their linebacking core. So I guess my next question to you is, who's that guy in this rotation that may be on the bubble as far as linebackers go?
Well, I think you got to look at, it's going to be definitely from the strong side position. I think that position is just up for grabs, and I think that's going to be one of the more intriguing battles in camp. I look at it like a Darius Glanton. I think that's the guy that could be on the bubble, could be on the way out.
Now I want to preface what he's saying. Darius Glanton is a good player. Otherwise, he would not be around. And I promise you, Jason Light would get somebody in here that would compete if he wasn't that player. I feel like if he gets cut, he's going to automatically get picked up by a team. This is not going to be one of those players that if he gets cut by the Bucs, he doesn't do anything else. This guy is a legit player, and he's going to do some big things. So I really love where our linebacking core is. I would love to see it a little bit with as far as depth goes. I'm going to ask you this, since you write about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, do you feel like these players are able to play in multiple positions? Are they multifaceted? Do you feel like they're versatile and they can still play at a high level in different positions?
As far as the linebackers go?
Yeah, as far as the linebackers.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely. I think Levante David has a good chance to put up high sack numbers. I mean, he got 5 sacks last year, and that was like in the last 4 games. So, and then Quan, I think, can play anything. I mean, that guy, he's a monster. I think he can play free, uh, outside linebacker, whatever you say, he's going to make it happen. But I look at Devontae Bond. He's a very interesting player. I think he can play bird linebacker where you have him at rush end, or he can play strong side. So yeah, they got some versatile guys. You look at some of the undrafted guys they picked up, like a Jeff Knox from the CFL, who's an interesting player. You got Christian Kuntz from a smaller school. I think it's Christian Kuntz. I'm sorry. He's from a small school, Division III, but he put up big numbers, and he's a guy.
You talk about these smaller schools, and I'm really excited. I've really gotten more into college football, and the reason I say that is you got these players from small schools that are able to go into the NFL. Remember when it was just a rarity that you would see a player that could go from a Division III or Division II and go in and make an impact in the NFL, and now you're seeing it more and more often. And the playing field is slowly but surely getting leveled to where players can play, wherever they want to, but still make an impact in the NFL. So, I'm excited about it. I really am. I just can't tell you, this. I like what I'm seeing right now, especially in the NFL. I think that, I don't know, every team has the opportunity to do good now. We don't know what this draft, everybody's talking about how much talent was in this draft, and we'll see. I've heard comments about how special the draft is. I like what Tampa has done, and I really don't care what the rest of the division does, but I feel like, it's because it's all about Tampa. Tampa Bay is life, and everything else is just details, and that's kind of how I feel about it, and we're just talking about the defense. I feel like the defense will definitely be in a position to help this Buccaneers team to win some games.
Yes, yeah, most definitely. I mean, like you said, I mean, consistency is going to be so big for this team, and now you're going into year 2 of your scheme. You got the same starting defense coming back, so it's going to be huge. I think just guys knowing where to be. I think that's going to be a big thing, and this pass rush I think is going to be pretty ferocious, and I think it's going to help us in a lot of games. Just getting after quarterbacks.
And I know that you can relate to this, Mike, since January. My big thing has always been the safety position, but I've had a chance to really reassess that, in that if you have a good defensive line and they're getting pressure on the quarterback, your linebacking core is comfortable within that defense and they're playing the way they need to. It definitely takes pressure off the back end of the defense. Would you agree with that statement?
Yeah, definitely. And you look at what the Bucs did this offseason, they got bigger up front, but there's a reason to that, because what it does is it keeps bodies off of Quan Alexander, Levante David.
Yeah.
So now you're able to get those guys free, and your blitz packages, which is going to help you create more turnovers. I think the Bucs were one of the top teams in turnovers last year as far as defense. So I think they were third. I think first in defense and as far as yards allowed in the second half of the season. So they definitely figured out what they needed to do and for them. And I think that's going to continue this year, and possibly they'll be better overall.
Yeah, and Jonathan Miles made a statement. He said this team is stacked in every position, and it's going to be hard. It's going to be a hard choice to see who gets practice squad and who gets cut and goes elsewhere. We're in a good spot right now. You know what? That's a great statement right there. I mean, think about this, folks. I mean, let's go back to pre-Jason Light and talk about the Rockstar GM and the other idiot GM. What's his name? I don't even want to bring his name up. Bruce Allen. I'm not going to Bruce Allen. I have to say that because we've upgraded within the ownership on down to the general manager. Everything rolls downhill, and the fact that we upgraded the general manager, we got the coach that we wanted. We have a good defensive coordinator, and we have a good scouting staff. It really says a lot about this team and the direction they're trying to go. And where I'm going with this is, we've actually amassed a lot of talent, and we're actually in a very enviable position, where we have players. We're like, wow, we really have hard decisions to make on who we're going to keep, and we haven't been able to deal with that we haven't done that for a long time. I mean, I don't know. Can you tell me in your history as a Bucs fan, when was the last time that you saw something, like this, where we're like having to make hard choices on who we're going to keep?
I mean, you have to go back far. I'd say the Super Bowl team. You have to go back as far as those late 90 years. 1990. The late 90s, early 2000s. Yeah. I would say is when you had rosters where you're cutting guys that are actually they're pretty good and they're going to other teams.
Good. Exactly.
Yeah.
Now let me ask you this. I want to get back to TB Bucs fan had mentioned that this team is not stacked at corner. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, he's got a point as far as the starters, as far as outside corner. But again, right. I keep iterating Ryan Smith. I think that guy is going to surprise a lot of people. I think he's going to make a big leap, and I know he doesn't have the experience. He's going to get that this year, but
he's definitely going to get reps this year.
Yeah, so I think he's the guy to look for, but you got to also look at Robert McClain too. I mean, they brought him in for a reason. The guy can play outside if need be. So I think he's a good corner.
Jude Aje-Barima was a starter at some point,
right,
in his career.
Right, so he can play out. Yeah, he can play outside too. So yeah, I mean, you're not going to be stacked at all positions. I mean, it's just not possible with the salary cap, and you're always going to have holes in certain areas. But this team, as far as a whole, is pretty well stacked as far as overall, and their depth is probably the best it's been in probably 10 years. So, which is very exciting to see.
Yeah, most definitely. That's definitely something to think about. And I know that people want to bring up the he brought up the Raiders game. And I'm sure that in talking with him, he's never going to live that down either. But I just like the fact that in the off season he's trying to improve his game. And remember, I can remember a time when football players took up when it was the off season, it was their off season. They weren't trying to get better. They weren't trying to improve on where they were the year before, because they were just they were basing what they were doing on pure talent. Now you've got players that are going to specialists, guys that specialize in key positions and working on their craft. And this is something that I will say about Jude Aje-Barima. He came to Phoenix where Darrelle Revis shut down University, and he worked out with the trainers at Shut Down U to improve his craft. So he's a guy that's serious about what he's trying to do, and he's a guy I respect him because what these kids are seeing is players that hey, I make all this money, I can do this, I can do whatever I want, but they're not going out and trying to improve their craft. What I'm seeing from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers right now are people that are staying local. I want to work out with the quarterback. I want to work out with the defensive coordinator. I want to work out to get better for the season. So all I'm saying is, folks, when you look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and what they're doing, and look at the level of participation in these involuntary camps and stuff like that, it's drive. just as James McElroy said, drive. That's important. And when you have a quarterback, that's his whole goal is to win, and you get people behind that. I mean, that's something special right there.
Yep. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I look at this training camp coming up. I think this is going to be probably one of the most intense training camps we're going to have in a while, which is what you want, and it's going to be really good for this team. And you talk about guys training with, specialists, and you look at it like Noah Spence. I mean, he's going out training with Gerald McCoy. He's also training with a pass rush specialist and Chuck Smith, who's one of the best pass rushing coaches out there. So like that, and just better your craft. That's what it's all about. You look at Jameis Winston training in his own backyard. I mean, he's setting up obstacle courses and all this different stuff, and throwing the ball through, trying to improve his accuracy. I mean,
yeah, I mean, and not to cut you off, but think about this. You remember Josh Freeman, and I love Josh Freeman. I'm going to tell you right now, I was a huge Josh Freeman fan, despite where he went to college at. I mean, as a Jayhawk, as a KU Jayhawk, and he went to Kansas State, is one of those things. But all that aside, he played on talent. He was totally talented quarterback. And unfortunately for him, that's all he had. He didn't have coaching. He didn't have the motivation or the drive to improve his craft. Otherwise, he would still be in the league. And I look at what Jameis Winston has done in his time in the NFL, and I compare that to our former quarterback, a first-round quarterback, and there's no comparison. This guy, Jameis Winston, wants to win, and his personality is contagious. Yeah. And that right there in itself is exciting for me as a Bucs fan, because I can go back to Doug Williams. From Doug Williams to now, I can tell you that Jameis Winston, hands down, his personality, his drive, his motivation, I'm happy with that. I'm good with what he's trying to do.
Yeah. Yeah, and DeMar Dotson, I mean, he said it recently in an interview. I mean, he was asked about the 2010 team and what the difference is going into this season with this team as far as expectations, and he said it's easy. It's the quarterback. I mean, Jameis Winston, night and day, is the reason why this team is going to be where they're heading as far as playoffs and eventually a Super Bowl championship. So, and as far as Freeman, his problem was he wasn't football 24/7, and unfortunately at the quarterback position, you gotta be football 24/7 nonstop. And if you think about something else, you're not going to be where you're good enough to make it in this league.
Oh, most definitely. And I mean, we could look at Mike Williams and the Beard Crew, or the Caveman Crew, or Caveman Gang, or
one of those.
Show me the cave or something. That guy, he just didn't. I mean, football was not it for him. He was like working on other things, other projects, and it just wasn't his main focus. And what you're seeing right now, and maybe I'm wrong, correct me if I'm wrong here, but if you look at the drafts from Jason Licht's draft to now, and when Jason Licht had control over free agents and the draft, he's drafted people that football is their number one priority. And that's the one thing that I will say. We have had exceptions. Austin Seferian-Jenkins. I'm sorry, Austin. Sorry. He's one of those guys that he didn't have it from the neck up. It remains to be seen what he does with the rest of his NFL career. But what I saw here in Tampa was a guy that didn't have it from the neck up. And, Jason Licht, he's not perfect, but, he goes and he takes chances. And, that to me, that's huge. I really thought that, Austin Seferian-Jenkins does have the physical tools, but you have to have it from the neck up. You have to have that desire. You have to want to go in and hone your craft, look at film, work outside of football to get better. And we just didn't see that from him. So The cool thing about him, and I do want to make sure that I am exuding positive energy here. He's been clean and sober for what 129, 130 days. My hats off to him, because that's a hell of a cross to bear when you're dealing with any kind of addiction or something that impedes your progress. So my hats off to him and what he's been able to do. Outside of that, I'm kind of going back to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tampa hasn't been, away from these problems as well. We look at Doug Martin, but we look where Doug Martin is now. And Doug Martin, folks, please check out the podcast next week. We're going to talk about the offensive side of the ball. We're going to talk about different positions. But, just as an example, Doug Martin is somebody I feel like is going to have a huge impact on the NFL itself, just being healthy and mentally and physically being healthy and coming in and doing the damn thing. I was one of the few people going back to January who said, don't be surprised if you see Doug Martin on, coming back to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and making big plays going into the season. So again, he's one of those guys. I feel like he has it from the neck up. He's straight a little bit. Everybody deserves a second chance, and I'm expecting huge things from Doug Martin. NFC South, you've been warned.
Yeah, I completely agree. And Doug, I think he's going to be refocused, and I think he understands what he needs to do as far as his job. And
absolutely, he knows what's on the line. He knows what he lost.
And yeah, exactly. And I think he understands how important he is to this offense and to this team. And if he's going right and he's good, there's no telling what this offense can do, and they can be pretty much unstoppable, especially with a good running game. This offense is play action based. So if you have that strong running game and he's making teams pay, it just makes Jameis that much better, and that's what matters for this team. And if he can do that, then it's going to be a good season for sure.
And what have you heard about OJ Howard in OTAs?
He hasn't done anything wrong so far. I mean, he just makes plays that come to him. So I mean, he's good as advertised. Again, it's OTAs, so there's no pads.
Right. Absolutely. And folks, listen, we're not professionals here. We just do this for fun. And I do not believe, I think that what we have amassed on offense and defense, this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team is dangerous. This Tampa Bay Buccaneers team has the potential to go deep into the playoffs. And, every single game is a winnable game. There's not a game that I can look at on this schedule. I know everybody says this is a tough schedule. I'm going to say this right now. There's not a game that's not winnable for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Yeah. Not one game that I see. I don't care if it's New England. I don't care if it's Green Bay. This team has the talent to go out there and whoop that ass if they need to.
Yep. Yeah, no, 100% agree. And again, it all starts with Jameis Winston. I mean, with Winston, this team has a chance to win every game, to be in every game. And now you fortify that defense. Now you have a complete team on both sides of the ball where your offense has enough playmakers to be successful, whether you can create mismatches pretty much with anybody out there now because you have so many weapons and you're so diverse on both sides of the ball. You look at the depth as far as the defense to be able to mismatch and disguise your defenses, whether it's a 3-4 or 4-3 front, blitzes. So it's just a more complete team overall, which gives us a better chance to win. Have a chance to win every game, like Gene said. I mean, it's pretty exciting for Bucs fans, and I can't wait. I mean, it's going to be a very intense training camp, probably one of the better training camps we're going to have since a while. I mean, it's been a while.
Yeah, and think about this. your running game, and this was last year, and keep in mind the Tampa Bay Buccaneers had a winning season last year. The running game was non-existent.
Yeah.
And you have a quarterback that throws for 4K plus. 4K plus. Okay? That's scary. And you've got one wide receiver in Mike Evans, and you got Adam Humphries on the other side, who has no business being a number 2 receiver, but that's where he is. So what I'm telling you folks, get your popcorn ready. And I normally don't get like this.
Right.
But injuries aside, I think that this team is poised to do some big things in this season. They're going to win games that they're not supposed to win, or the people outside of the Bay Area don't realize that they can win.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be our doubters.
And they're welcome to doubt as much as they want to. I'm telling you right now, bro.
Yeah.
When I'm looking at this schedule, when I'm looking at this team, there's not a game they cannot win, including New England.
Right. Oh yeah, definitely. I definitely agree. And like I said, there's going to be critics. There's going to be people who are going to tell us, hold and temper your expectations. But this is the time to
kick rocks, man. They get excited about this, bro. Get excited about this. This is huge.
I mean, you just look at the trajectory of this team. I mean, everything is pointing up. You're coming off of your first winning season since 2010. You got a quarterback that is entering his 3rd year, which is prime time for quarterbacks in their career. And he's got massive weapons to throw the ball to.
And I'm going to talk about something we didn't really talk about this. I'm going to touch on this in depth next week.
Right.
But our draft pick, our first round draft pick, OJ Howard, can block. He can block downfield. He's Luke Stocker and Cameron Brate together. Luke Stocker can block. Cameron Brate can catch, and and Cameron Brate can stay somewhat healthy. I'm telling you. What you have right now with the OJ Howard and a Cameron Brate, offensive, defensive coordinators, you need to be scared. I'm telling you.
Yeah. And as far I want to get back to the defense, but I think what they've done as far as the defensive side of the ball, definitely getting bigger on that side. I think you're going to get more athletic in the linebacker position. With a Devontae Bond, who I think is another guy that I think is going to step up and take over that starting job. But now, again, that's going to be a tense battle. I think a Darius Glanton is in the mix. You got a Jeff Knox, who from the CFL is pretty good. The Kendall Beckwith guy.
I'm going to cut you off right here. Just curious. You talk about Devontae Bond. I love Devontae Bond. The guy is physical. I mean, he has intangibles. He has things that you really can't put stats to. And what he's capable of doing in his position. Now, I'd like to kind of touch on that right there, because I know a lot of people are looking at Devontae Bond. Really, this guy, he's got another year in this system. We have the same defensive coordinator. I'm telling you, this guy is going to make some noise. And I would like to know from you, what do you see? What traits do you see in him that make you think that this is the guy that can help this team improve?
Well, I mean, the number one thing, and this is what we look for as far as defensive players when me and Mark are looking at tape, and it's just guys that are relentless after the ball. They are always moving. Motor is non-stopping. Football, and that's what we look for. When we, especially in the draft, if you see a guy that's just, he's stopping once the ball goes away from his side, I mean, those are guys we mark off the list. And when you watch Devontae Bond, I mean, he is always moving after the football, making plays, whether it's getting after the quarterback or making plays, at the line of scrimmage in the run game. So again, this is limited film. He had limited playing time at Oklahoma. He was he started as a senior. He struggled with injuries, so that is one of his weaknesses, is injuries. So he's got to stay on the field. But when he's on the field, I mean, the guy can make plays, and he is relentless. And he made some good plays in preseason last year. before he got injured. So I think him sitting on the sideline watching a Daryl Smith who he learned from, I think he's going to be ready to come in and make plays right away. And the same thing with Darius Glanton. I mean, Glanton is kind of the opposite. I mean, the guy has speed for days, sideline to sideline linebacker. So, I mean, that's going to be an intense battle. I know a lot of people are high on Beckwith. Me and Gene are not. I mean,
Just don't see
I don't
it.
see his game. Yeah, I don't see it on film. Again, now I will say this: his transition to Sam linebacker, I think, might help him because he only have to go straight. He won't have to move
And
side to
folks,
side.
and I just want to, I'm going to be upfront with you. If I'm wrong about him, like I was about Quan Alexander, I totally whiffed on him. More thinking more about Kenny Bell than I was about Quan Alexander. I'm going to be the big man. I will be happy to admit I'm wrong, but I just Beckwith. Oh my goodness, there were tight ends that had him locked down where he couldn't do anything. I just where he was drafted concerns me with what they're talking about him doing. I hope I'm wrong. You know, I'm a Bucs fan. I want this team to succeed more than anybody in the world. But as a person who watches the draft, who watches game film, who looks for behaviors, this was a guy that there were a bunch of times he got left behind. There are a bunch of times where he could not shed blocks from tight ends, and that bothers me. Bothers me a lot. So, again, we'll get into go ahead, but we'll get into this as we get into camp, especially. He's a guy that I will have my good eye on.
Yeah, I just think that whole position, the linebacker position, is going to be something to watch for. We have really young depth behind everybody. So I was looking at the linebackers now. I mean, you have Richie Brown, who's a undrafted rookie, and then Riley Bullough. So I mean, those are two guys that are rookies, good size. I mean, so. Those are two to watch for. I mean, they're going to be probably playing either middle or outside linebacker. So depth, I mean, very important. So that position, I think, is going to be interesting to watch just to see who comes out of it, especially as the fourth and the fifth linebacker, depending on how many they keep, because they only kept 5 linebackers last year. So it depends if they're going to keep 6 this year or have, a couple on the practice squad. So it's just but Devontae Bond is the guy to look for. I wrote an article about him. I'm very high on him. So him and Ryan Smith are my two guys from last year's class that I think are going to take that next step forward. Yeah, very exciting.
Yeah, exactly. And this is the season. This is the time where you got to get your thoughts out there. Who do you want? Who do you want to see? Who would you like to see? For me, Stevie T is a guy that I really am rooting for. I mean, when you talk about these young kids and what young kids are going through to get to the next level, Stevie T is a guy that humbled himself. And to me, that's huge. When you humble yourself and you hone your craft and you get better, you make sacrifices so that it will benefit you in the long run. That's important. And what he was able to do coming from Utah to USC, I mean, that just sold me on him and his love for the game. So, I mean, and just talking, and I talk to him on Twitter. I don't talk to him personally. I will talk to him personally eventually, but I'm telling you, this guy is, somebody that if you want your kid to look up to somebody, or you want somebody that you're working with, you talk about football, that's somebody that kid should look up to, because he sacrificed a lot to get what he can get and put him in a position to where he is now. And now he has his foot in the door. He can come in and he can possibly be a player that latches on to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a 7th round pick, which is very rare to see a 7th round pick come in and do that. So I'm excited for it. And, he's one of those guys, I hope he makes the team.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's definitely going to make the team. I have big expectations for Stevie T. I think just his ability to be a run defender, a space occupier, a guy that can free up Gerald McCoy, free up Chris Baker. He's going to be a big piece of this defense. I'm going to have an article on him this weekend, so keep an eye out for that. I mean, Gene's right. I mean, the guy loves football, and it's evident in his story. I mean, to be able to uh, in your car for 2 months and still go to school and go to football practice and pretty much live out of your car. I mean, that's ultimate testament right there, and
Mhm.
shows that he cares about what he's doing, and he wants this. I mean, he wants it
Right.
really bad.
Yeah, most
You want
definitely.
you want guys like that on your team.
Yeah. I mean, that's huge. And those are intangibles. And
Yeah.
we live in such a stat-filled world. Everything is stats. Everything is tangible. But the things that
Mm-hmm.
he brings to this game, whether it's up here or physically or his heart, those are intangibles. Those are things where he's gonna bring his best every time to
Yep.
try to make this team. And that's
Mm-hmm.
what is exciting for me. And that's what I hope that kids can understand, that you know what, there are times where you're gonna have to make sacrifices. You're gonna
Yep.
have to do it, whether you want to or not. If you want to improve your lifestyle, you have to make those changes. You have to sacrifice things. And being humble, that's important too. It's a shame that we live in a world where being humble is the exception and not the norm.
Mhm.
And
Right.
that just, that's something. It's important to see that kind of stuff out of Stevie Tui Kolavasu. Yeah, this
Mhm.
guy, he's amazing. Just talking to him on Twitter, you can't help but want to follow him and see where he ends up. He's one of those
Mhm.
guys. I expect to see big things from him on Hard Knocks.
Mhm.
His case, what he's gone through, where his journey would be huge for Hard Knocks, because
Mhm.
he's that underdog that has come in there to try to achieve the best for him and his family.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. I mean, and just what he's going to be able to bring to this team. And that's what I like about what Mike Smith is building on defense. It's just getting the right pieces to fit and to make this defense more versatile and more versatile and uh, more effective. I mean, it's great to watch. And you look at their picks. Justin Evans, another guy who I think is going to be utilized in a certain way where he can come in certain matchups and strengths, which is coverage. So same
Yeah,
thing with
let me
Stevie
let me.
T.
I'm just kind of
Yeah.
curious about your thoughts on Justin Evans. I know
Hmm.
that when I watch him, there were a couple of things that stood out to me. Is that he's actually a cover safety,
Yeah.
which Tampa hasn't had for a long time, and he's actually a good cover safety. Um,
Hmm.
do you feel like he's a guy that will be able to contribute right out the gates for Tampa?
I think it depends on how fast he can learn the playbook. I think if he can adjust quickly and come along where I think he'll get coached up. I don't think technique is going to be an issue. I think John Hogan and the secondary coaches are going to make sure he's good on his technique and making sure that's all sorted out. So I think as far
And
as
the
angles
flaws,
and
and just I didn't mean to cut you off. The flaws that you see with him, do you
yeah,
feel like these are things that are coachable, or you
yeah.
feel like these are things that are traits?
No, I think it's definitely coachable, and you got to like his aggressiveness because he's very aggressive and you got to like that as a player because or as a coach because you want guys that are aggressive and that go after the football. So um, yeah, definitely he's coachable, and I think it's going to take some time. I don't expect him to be a star right away. I think it's going to take some time. He's got to grow into that position, but I think they're going to utilize him where you can play some three safety look where he's deep middle, and even maybe in the slot sometimes put him as a cover guy to uh, matchups on the slot, especially if if you have a big receiver or a big tight end, you put Justin Evans on him and let him go one-on-one. So
you think we shouldn't have any problems as far as tight ends? He's somebody that could cover a tight end without any problems.
I think so.
From what
I
you
think,
see.
yeah, I think he could match up with the tight ends and make some plays there. I think, and the way Keith Tandy stepped up last year, I think he's going to take another step forward. So I think Tandy's an automatic lock at safety, and then it's going to come down to Chris Conte and Wilcox and see what happens there. So
I think they're developing quite a rotation there.
Yeah, definitely.
And I'm going to be very honest. This is one of the positions that I felt like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers really didn't address as well as they should have, the safety position. But having looked at the film, having looked at what we have on as far as talent on defense, I think the defensive line can be a game changer for the secondary. Because when you're getting pressure on the quarterback, that means that your secondary is not having to cover as long as they normally would. So I feel like this will be, this will be huge. If the defensive line can do what they need to do, it's going to help everybody behind them to be better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you got to look at last year as far as our run, during our winning streak, our safety position was probably one of our strengths. I mean, they were playing at a top level. The way Keith Tandy was playing, I mean, he was playing lights out. I mean,
yeah, absolutely. He was a playmaker.
So having him and making plays, Chris Conte back there making plays, Bradley McDougall, who's now with the Seahawks, but those guys were, I mean, they were on point. I mean, everybody was in their position making plays, guys anticipating, being aggressive. So I would expect the same. I think the addition of Wilcox and Evans is just going to make that position stronger. And you have ability to make some matchups, and take advantage of some matchups with those guys back there. So, and you're definitely more physical than definitely a Justin Evans who likes to hit.
Oh, somebody's asking about the shirt. I don't know. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I love the Real Bucs Talk shirt, man. You kept it real. So, I can't believe we've been talking for over an hour. Can you believe that? That's crazy. There's folks, when we start the show, before we get on, me and Michael will get on and we'll talk about what we think we might want to discuss and stuff like that. And I know in his mind, and I know in my mind, we're thinking, man, we don't have enough content to really cover all this. But we tried to do our best. As much as we were drawn to it, we try to stay away from the offense and just focus on the defense. But we got a lot accomplished. And folks, please, if you can get out to the camp and support these team to support this team, please do. Very important, huge. Any games you can go to, huge. And all I can say is, for me, I'm excited. I'm going to be at the Chicago Bears game. If I see anybody, if you see me, please holler at me. I'm definitely approachable. I love talking football. I'd love to personally meet every single listener that's checking out my show, and I appreciate all of you. So, definitely check us out. Next week, we're going to talk about the offensive side of the ball. And it's important to talk about that because I think that's where everybody's head's at right now. Quarterback, backup quarterback, running back, tight end, fullback, line, just everything that we can really discuss. I definitely want to tie that in there. And I'm all about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, when saw Pirates of the Caribbean, and I'm Real Bucs Talk. I will be rocking my shirt as soon as I get my shirt. I will be rocking my shirt next week. I promise you.
There you
go. For those of you that haven't gotten your shirt yet, I got you. Everybody that I've missed, I will have you taken care of this weekend. I promise. Cross my heart. Hope to die. But I have everybody squared up. I'm going to get you all taken care of, and I'll send you a message. If you message me on Twitter And I'm going to hit everybody up here when I get off, and we'll make sure that I've got everybody's address straight, and get those Buc What You Heard shirts out there, man. Because I appreciate the listeners, I appreciate the content, I appreciate everybody that's chiming in on these different topics. But please check us out, me and Michael Pless. I hope to have a special guest next week. Follow me on Twitter. You get some ideas of who I'm looking at. And again, thank you everybody for checking us out. And all I can say is this is going to be a fun season. There's gonna be ups, there's gonna be downs. Please don't down the team. I know it gets frustrating after a while, but stick with the team, because I'm telling you, this team is poised to do big things in the years to come. So please, if you can, check out the team, check out my show. If you are on right now, please hit the like button. Haven't been pushing that a lot. I'm a lazy person, so that's just how I am. But if you can, hit the like button. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. I talk to everybody, or I try to talk to everybody that's on here. Michael Pless, thank you so much tonight for being on. Tell everybody how they can get a hold of you and the next article they can expect to read from Real Bucs Talk.
Yeah, follow us at Real Bucs Talk. You can follow me personally at RBT Insider if you want to follow me as well. But yeah, I mean, just check out our site, realbucstalk.com. We have a lot of new content up there on this past year's draft, and then we also have the 2016 draft articles up as well. So tomorrow I'm probably going to have something on McNichols, the running back from Boise State. The guy is really dynamic, very offensive type playmaker, catch the ball out of the backfield. So I'm excited to write that one. And then I'll probably have something on Stevie T as well, who I think big things are going to happen for this kid. Just love his character. So yeah, I mean, more of that. And then I'm probably going to have scouts here shortly. I know Gene was asking about the scouts, so I got that in the works. So don't worry, Gene, I got you.
This is what I'm really excited about. This is the time of the year that everybody should really be excited. I know that a couple of years ago, if you've been following me for a while, I did talk about your expectations, making sure your expectations are lower. Your expectations right now should be through the roof. This team is poised to do big things, and why not Tampa? Why not the Bucs? Why not Bucs fans? Don't listen to these jerks that say temper your expectations. Tell them to kiss your ass. This team is poised to do big things. There is nothing wrong with being a homer for your team. There's nothing wrong with rooting for your team. There's nothing wrong with expecting your team to win. That's what we do. That's what we should be doing. So all I can tell you guys, remember, keep doing what you're doing. Keep being excited. Go to games, support your team, and remember this: Buc What You Heard.